Greetings to all lovers of tales, myths, and legends. Today we have a fascinating topic, the Greek goddess of love, Aphrodite. Just as contradictory as the feelings she evokes. Oh, and one more thing. Children should not watch this video, it's Greek mythology after all. Consider yourself warned. I think we should start with the events that preceded the birth of this beautiful goddess. The sky god Uranus, fearing the loss of his power, imprisoned his children, the Titans, deep within the earth. This did not sit well with his spouse, the goddess of the earth, Gaia, who also suffered from her husband's tyranny. She convinced her youngest son, Cronus, to castrate his father, thus depriving him of his power. Gaia herself endowed Cronus with a formidable weapon, a flint sickle. And when Uranus arrived at their bed in the evening to enjoy the caresses of Gaia, his son severed his father's manhood. Uranus's blood and semen spilled into the ocean near the island of Cephalonia, where they formed a foamy white froth from which Aphrodite later emerged. The wind god Zephyrus carried this foam and brought it to the island of Cyprus, near the city of Paphos, where the goddess emerged onto the land, floating on a seashell. There she was greeted by the gatekeepers of the heavens, the Ori, who are responsible for maintaining order in nature. They wore golden diadems and adorned Aphrodite with gold. It was the Ori who took charge of the upbringing of the young goddess and taught her to charm others with her beauty. And when she grew up, they gave her a magical golden girdle that made Aphrodite irresistible. Finally, Aphrodite matured and was ready to behold the magnificence of Olympus. Or perhaps it was Olympus that was ready to behold her incredible beauty. Either way, the gods welcomed Aphrodite and declared her the goddess of love and beauty. Zeus decided that such a beauty could not remain alone, and his wife Hera realized where his inclination was leading. She immediately proposed her own candidate for Zeus's position, the lame Hephaestus, the god of craftsmen and blacksmiths, who was not known for his beauty. Zeus, however, supported his wife's decision. To give you an idea, he was so ugly that Hera threw him off Olympus when he was born. Much to the surprise of the other gods, Aphrodite did not find the unattractive Hephaestus repulsive. On the contrary, she convinced everyone that she genuinely loved him. But as soon as the wedding was over, Aphrodite found herself a lover. And who else could it be but the handsome Ares, the brave warrior and god of bloody warfare? Hephaestus was a hard-working god, often leaving for his forge at night, and the lovers skillfully took advantage of this. As soon as Aphrodite's husband left, Ares would sneak into her bedroom, and before dawn, he would leave her side. This continued without a hitch, and the diligent Hephaestus remained oblivious. But one day, Ares and Aphrodite became so engrossed in their lovemaking that they greeted the dawn together. And at dawn, as you know, the sun god Helios leaves Olympus, and from above, he can see everything. So, he couldn't help but notice Ares and Aphrodite in Hephaestus's bed. However, Helios, like many other gods, was charmed by Aphrodite and, whether out of jealousy or revenge, he revealed her infidelity to her husband. At first, Hephaestus did not want to believe Helios' words and devised a cunning plan. He forged a strong bronze net, so thin that it was invisible to the naked eye. He securely tied the net to their marital bed and convinced Aphrodite that he was embarking on a long journey. That same evening, Ares visited Aphrodite, and the lovers indulged in passion. Meanwhile, Hephaestus, hidden in the bedroom, watched as his wife betrayed him. Shame, anger, resentment, and fury clouded his vision, but he knew that revenge was imminent. The lovers, entangled in the bronze net, did not understand what was happening and could not escape. Then Hephaestus called upon all the gods to his dwelling to witness his wife's infidelity. The Olympians gathered around the lovers' bed and mocked Ares and Aphrodite. The gods were captivated by Aphrodite's naked body and, judging by appearances, wouldn't mind being in Ares' place. However, this did not stop them from making cutting jokes. Hermes even expressed his desire aloud. Poseidon pretended to sympathize with Hephaestus, and Io persuaded him to release the lovers. However, Hephaestus set a condition: Aphrodite and Ares would be banished from Olympus. And if the condition were violated, Poseidon would take their place under the net. Zeus deemed it fair, and the lovers were freed. Ares went to Thrace, and Aphrodite went to Cyprus. However, before that, she, let's say, had a little fun with Hermes. Their union gave birth to a beautiful hermaphroditic youth, later merging with their beloved nymph Salmachus, forming a dual-gender being, but that's a completely different story. On Cyprus, after bathing in the sea, Aphrodite regained her virginity. But the mockery of the gods did not go unpunished. Aphrodite began to seek revenge. Helios was the first to suffer, and his descendants became prone to lustful desires. Some gods she deprived of love, while others she instilled with unnatural passion. No one escaped the wrath on Olympus. Aphrodite did not particularly miss Hephaestus. For instance, once, to provoke Ares' jealousy, she reciprocated Poseidon's passion and bore him a daughter. Dionysus, the god of fertility and winemaking, long unsuccessfully sought Aphrodite's favor. But finally, fate smiled upon him, and from this union, their son Priapus was born with enormous genitals. So large that Aphrodite was horrified and rejected him. She aided Pygmalion, a sculptor from Cyprus, who fell in love with his own creation, a statue of a beautiful woman that she brought to life, granting his desperate prayers. Separately, it is worth mentioning the myth of Psyche, who was so beautiful that people began to worship her like Aphrodite. This wounded the pride of the goddess, and she decided to punish the girl by inspiring her to fall in love with the most monstrous of men. For this purpose, she sent her son Eros. It should be noted that Psyche was rather unhappy with such honors, which led her father to consult an oracle, who said that Psyche should be taken to a cliff in funeral attire to marry the monster. The father did as the oracle commanded, leaving Psyche alone on the cliff. Thus, she became the wife of an invisible creature who only visited her at night. However, driven by her sisters, Psyche wanted to see the face of her husband and lit a lamp. To her surprise, she discovered the beautiful Eros in her bed. At that moment, a hot drop of oil from the lamp fell on the shoulder of the god, and he woke up. Offended by his wife's behavior, as she had promised never to look at her husband, Eros flew away, and Psyche wandered the earth for a long time in search of him. Finally, she knelt before Eros' mother, Aphrodite, who sent Hermes to fetch her, and he immediately brought her back. Eros, who was sick from the burn, happened to be with his mother. Supposedly to heal him, but actually to torment Psyche, Aphrodite gave her impossible tasks. For example, she had to sort a pile of mixed grains grain by grain, retrieve the golden fleece from mad sheep, fetch water from the river Styx, and bring back a box of Persephone's magical ointments. With the help of others, of course, Psyche managed to complete all the tasks, and Eros recovered. He pleaded with the gods, and they made Psyche immortal and elevated her to Olympus. Psyche was not the only one to experience the wrath of Aphrodite. Myrrha, the daughter of the king of Cyprus, considered herself so beautiful that she deemed it unnecessary to pay homage to the goddess of love. Aphrodite decided to punish her and instilled in Myrrha a passion for her own father, Cinyras. This led to the daughter climbing into his bed one night. For 12 days and 12 nights, they indulged in love. Under the spell of the goddess of love, Cinyras did not recognize his daughter, but on the 13th morning, he realized who was lying beside him on the bed. He drew his sword and intended to kill Myrrha and then himself. Frightened by this sudden change, the girl ran away, but Cinyras, sword in hand, pursued her. Realizing that she could not escape, the weeping Myrrha fell to her knees and begged the gods for salvation. They took pity and transformed Myrrha into a tree. But even after this, she did not stop crying. And then, 9 months later, the tree split open and a beautiful child, Adonis, emerged from it. Aphrodite, upon seeing this, was filled with passion for him. She already knew that Adonis would be her lover when he grew up, of course. and to ensure that he would belong only to her, she decided to hide him from women, including the goddesses. She chose the realm of the dead for this purpose and entrusted the child to Persephone, where no one would be able to tempt him. And when he grew up, she would take him back. However, the goddess of love did not consider Persephone, who, as it turned out, was also captivated by Adonis. So much so that she decided to keep him for herself. Years passed, and Aphrodite fell in love with Adonis, who had now grown into a handsome young man. But Persephone refused to give him to Aphrodite. A scandal erupted, so intense that even Zeus heard of it and arrived to resolve the dispute among the goddesses. He decided that Adonis would spend the first third of the year with Persephone, the second third with Aphrodite, and the remaining third as he pleased. However, Persephone set a condition: when Adonis was with Aphrodite, she should not wear her magical belt. The goddess of love obediently agreed, but on the very first day, she broke her promise. Adonis passionately fell in love with Aphrodite and decided to devote his free third of the year to her. Upon learning of the deception, Persephone decided to take revenge on Aphrodite. She traveled to Thrace and told Ares that his beloved now preferred a mortal man, one who even resembled a woman. A wounded Ares' pride drove him into a rage. The next day, Adonis, who was an avid hunter, ventured into the woods, where he was killed by a gigantic boar. It was none other than Ares himself. Thus, Adonis fell into the hands of Persephone, the queen of the underworld, while Aphrodite was left with nothing. Aphrodite evoked admiration from both men and gods, but many goddesses did not share their desires. Once, the Olympians held a feast and naturally invited Aphrodite, but they did not bother to invite Ares, her former lover. His wounded pride was once again hurt. In response, he sent his eternal companion, Eris, the goddess of discord, to the feast. She burst into the hall and threw a golden apple onto the table. It had a strange inscription, "To the fairest." Aphrodite stood up and wanted to claim what she believed was rightfully hers. But she was not alone. Hera and Athena also stood up. To resolve the dispute, it was decided to turn to a mortal. Paris, the son of King Priam of Troy, was chosen. The goddesses, accompanied by Hermes, went to Mount Ida, where the unsuspecting young Paris was tending his herds. They approached the bewildered Paris and demanded that he tell them which goddess was worthy of being called the fairest. Confused, Paris admitted that he couldn't choose. Promises were then made. Hera said that if he chose her, she would give him a kingdom, and he would become the greatest ruler, leaving his name to be remembered throughout the ages. Athena promised to make him an unbeatable warrior if he chose her. But Aphrodite knew what to press on and said that if the apple went to her, she would grant him the love of the most beautiful woman, Helen of Sparta, who was promised to someone else. Without hesitation, Paris handed the apple to Aphrodite. She, in turn, took off her belt that made her irresistible and gave it to Paris, while instilling a passion for the young man in the heart of the beautiful Helen. The consequence of Paris's choice was the Trojan War, which lasted for 10 years. And that's the end. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and look for other videos in the playlist. Thank you for your attention, and see you in new videos.